Welcome to Nubian Narrator News, where dystopia is not just a genre, it's a Conservative Party conference agenda. I'm your host, Sirius, broadcasting live from a rapidly declining timeline where facts get silenced, doctors get blamed, and Kemi Badenoch keeps cosplaying as a villain in a West African version of 1984. Let's talk about that headline. Conservatives vow to ban doctor strikes. Kemi Badenoch calls the union militant. And apparently, democracy is now optional, because nothing screams servant leadership like gagging healthcare workers during a crisis and labelling literal NHS doctors as enemies of the state. Now let me paint the scene for you. While you're out here dodging potholes, NHS waitlists, and whatever vibe Starmer's trying to channel this week, Kemi's tucked up in her office, daydreaming of a Britain where protest is a memory, unions are forbidden, and workers just keep calm and bleed out quietly. And doctors are supposed to carry on, bandage up the nation with a smile, even while they themselves are drowning in burnout, abuse and below inflation pay. But now, after years of being clapped, clobbered and gaslit, these same doctors dared to say, "Nah fam." And suddenly, Kemi's triggered. Let's decode this, shall we? When politicians say militant, what they really mean is too organised and too loud for my taste. It's not about violence. It's about volume. It's not about danger. It's about defiance. Kemi calling the British Medical Association, the BMA, militant is like calling a librarian terrorist adjacent because they refuse to whisper. Let's not forget, these are the junior doctors, folks, not terrorists, not thugs, not shadowy unions from a Cold War wet dream. These are the humans literally holding up your granddad's dialysis machine while calculating how to afford rent on a 14-hour wage. And how did we even get here? Let's rewind the surgical tape. Since 2008, junior doctor pay has been cut by over 25% in real terms. That's not a typo. That's a fiscal mugging. A foundation year one doctor, the first rung of the NHS ladder, earns about £32,000 before tax. You know, the person you'll meet first in A&E when your cousin's e-scooter dreams go south. Meanwhile, an MP with zero medical training earns £86,000 plus expenses for sleeping through votes and retweeting Priti Patel's memes. But apparently the real threat is doctors asking not to die poor. So what is Kemi's master plan? The Tory party, under her convenient outrage and authoritarian silent nod, now wants to legally ban essential public workers from striking. That means doctors, nurses, paramedics, and possibly teachers, anyone they can file under necessary when the nation's collapsing. They call it minimum service legislation, which sounds innocent, right? Like the Wi-Fi still works even during the apocalypse. But what it really means is this: criminalise your right to walk out, even when you're walking out to save your own life. But here's the twist. The UK is still a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights, and under Article 11, everyone has the right to freedom of association, including the right to strike. Even Putin has to pretend his anti-strike laws are constitutional. Kemi? She just calls dissent unpatriotic and moves on. But the UN, the International Labour Organization, the British public, all saying the same thing. You can't fix a crisis by punishing the people managing it, unless of course your plan isn't to fix the crisis. It's to keep the headlines neat and the public confused. Let's talk consequences, because once you ban strikes for doctors, guess who's next? Teachers, paramedics, firefighters, bin workers, the guy who delivers your insulin and the woman who checks your water for lead. All it takes is a bit of language laundering. Call them militant, say they're risking lives, frame the strike as selfish. Boom, job done, democracy downgraded. This is how authoritarianism creeps, not in boots, but in briefings. Now don't get it twisted, this isn't about health, it's about control. It's not about saving patients, it's about silencing workers. Kemi Badenoch is doing that classic Tory thing, weaponising identity while bulldozing liberty. She likes to play the common sense queen, tough, sensible, no nonsense. But let's call it what it is, a cosplay Thatcherism that's allergic to reality and addicted to punishment. She wants to run Britain like it's a colonial outpost, civilise the natives, silence the rebels, and blame the mess on the jungle. And while she's doing all that, the NHS is bleeding out. Over 11,000 vacancies in junior doctor posts. Surgeons quitting mid-operation, not literally but spiritually. GPs closing up shop. Waiting lists hitting record highs. And who's being scapegoated? Not the government, not the underfunding, not the privatisation schemes slicing the NHS open like rotisserie meat. No, it's the doctors, the people who patched your nan's lungs after COVID, ate them like a buffet, the people who deliver your babies, catch your cancer, stitch your teenager back together after a moped crash. They're the ones being told, shut up, get back to work, or else. So what now? We protest, we expose, we name the game. Because this ain't just about Kemi, it's about a government that treats compassion like a weakness and labour rights like a threat. A government so desperate to seem in control, they're willing to ban the very people trying to save lives. That's not leadership, that's cowardice wrapped in a flag. And to Kemi Badenoch, or if you're watching this from your neo-colonial dreamscape, doctors don't need gag orders, they need pay rises, they don't need bans, they need respect. And while you're busy dismantling democracy one law at a time, remember this, we vote. I'm Sirius, your unimpressed news anchor. This is Nubian Narrator News, where we diagnose the madness, prescribe the truth, and laugh just enough not to cry. Stay bold, stay loud, and don't let them silence the healers.